So here Samantha works 25 hours every week. So we want to find this out as a unit rate per day, or how much on average, what would she work per day. So what we can do is we can just write out her 25 hours, and we can just convert our week to days. So divided by 7 days. And then we can just divide to work out the unit rate. We could also use our multiplication method where we are keeping track of units and do it that way as well. This way is probably simple enough, and we can get a unit rate fairly easily this way. And I'm getting a calculation of 3.57, okay, and that would be hours per day. Okay, so on average, she's working 3.57 hours per day. So she needs to earn enough money to buy a car. To do this, she needs to work 630 hours. So how many days will this take? Well, I'm going to use my multiplication strategy here, or my unit analysis. So I'm going to start with 630 hours, and I'm going to use my unit rate. I want to convert this to days. So I'm going to have my hours in the denominator, okay, because I need my hours units to cancel out. This is going to be a unit rate, so this is 1 day. Okay, so I'm going to use the reciprocal ratio here. And so this is basically going to be times on top, divide on bottom. Okay, so we're going to end up with 630 divided by 630 divided by 3.57, and I'm getting about 176.5 days. And I can see that my units are correct, okay, because that's the units that are left over. Okay, so she earns $17 an hour in her job. How much does she make if she works 25 days? Whoa. Okay, well, let's see if we can do this with our times divide strategy. So I have 25 days, and I want to get rid of the days. And the conversion factor I have is the one I'm going to use is going to be this one right here. I'm going to convert that to hours. So I'm going to multiply by 3.57 hours for 1 day. And I know that my units are going to cancel out. Now I have hours. So I need to then get rid of the hours and convert it to dollars. And there's my rate right here. Okay, so I'm going to multiply. So I'm going to use hours in the bottom, days on top, dollars on top, and then I've got my units left over. Okay, so I'm going to then just multiply through. So I get 25 times on top, and divide on bottom. So this works out nicely because it's just all multiplication. So I end up with a calculation of $1,517 and about 25 cents. Okay, and I know my units are correct because I can see that my units left over are dollars. Okay, let's take a look at this one here. We have Caden. He gets 50 points in 40 games. So let's do this as a unit rate, and let's figure out how many points per game. Okay, so when I divide this, I'm going to get 1.25, and my units are points for 1 game, or points per game. Okay, so there's my unit rate. So I want to figure out the number of games to get 80 points. So I'm going to start with my 80 points, and I'm going to use my time strategy. I need to get my points on the denominator. Okay, that way my units cancel out, and 1 game in the numerator. And again, I just have times on top, divide on bottom. So I end up with 80 divided by 1.25, and that's going to give me 64 games. Okay, and again, the calculation works out to be 64. I can see that my units are consistent, and it's 64 games. Okay, and Some of you may have known that you want to divide by the number of points. Well, again, this makes sure we're clear that it's going to be divide by 1.25 points.